Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports' Order. And yo, it's time to talk some NFL, recapping some college football. I got a solution to the Patrick Mahomes problem. Myself, 2-5, your unorthodox statistician, and as you can see, I repeat, I do not hate Julius Randle. And then across from me, we have the one and only, born in Texas, raised in VA, representing New Jerusalem to the point that he want all y'all to know that Naughty by Nature is way more influential than NWA. Holla if you hear him flow. Don't bring feelings to a fact fight.
Don't do it.
He is Mr. Logical. And of course, we're going to get this thing started off with Get It Off My Chest. So Get It Off My Chest goes a little bit like this. Tonight, the association is back. That does not mean that only LeBron James has returned. The idea here is watch basketball. There are plenty of exciting players, exciting teams. Hell, just watch to see who has new city uniforms. You know, right now we're watching the defending champions hit 3 after 3 to make us say Golden State who? This is Golden State without Klay Thompson. I know you want to know what that looks like. You thought SGA was MVP last year? So did I. Let's watch him this year. Let's talk about him this year. I was scrolling on X earlier today, and then, you know, someone had, I guess, made a comment at Shannon Sharp, and they said, why y'all still talking about the Cowboys? And that's how I feel right now. There's 30 teams in this league. The Lakers aren't even a contender. You know, I can't even say with full confidence that the Lakers are a top 12 team in the league. So check out Sacramento. They went out and got DeMar DeRozan. You know, check out the Knicks with their new toys. We're about to see Minnesota and Nas Reed in the gang right now without Karl Anthony Towns. Oh, by the way, Mr. Logical's outfit just reminded me, I'm sorry, but you won't see Joel Embiid or Paul George tomorrow. You know, but if you're into Tyrese Maxey, he'll be there. The freak will be there. So the point is, there's so much basketball to be had. And now we're at an inflection point. That's my new phrase now, you know, after I used it on Georgia and Texas the other day. So now we're at an inflection point where my mission is to find out, where are the real basketball fans? Where are you? Show yourselves. We don't care about ratings. We don't care who makes the finals. We're here to watch basketball. We're here to talk about everyone in the league. That includes the Pistons. That includes the Hornets, because they still got LaMelo Ball. You know what I mean? Like, I'm watching the Wizards just to see what Jordan Poole's going to do next, Howard Stern style. So join me as we embrace a new basketball season, and let's make basketball great again. Brought to you by Liquid Death, of course.
I feel you. I like how you mentioned those 3 teams. This is funny that the 3 teams you mentioned are gonna have a combined like 67 wins.
That's all right.
I'm with it.
That's all right. Everybody got to know where Cooper Flag going next year, right?
He's going to OKC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Clippers are going to be so bad that the Paul George trade that they made like some years back, somehow Cooper Flag could end up in OKC. I don't know. I don't know, but it would be crazy if it did happen.
Right.
This is a Ben Simmons jersey, and the only reason I have it is because this is after they traded him to Brooklyn, and it was $20 at Foot Locker or Champs, and I got the discount, so it was like $17.50. So it was like, this is a few years back, but I just thought it was dope. Just that it was on sale. I was like, for $20, yeah, I'll get it. I might get off my chest a little different. I like Mike's getting at. We'll see. Like I said, we'll see who the real fans are, even the pundits, because it's like, there's going to be teams that they're like Boston's performance tonight should be raved about. I think they're up to like 33 pointers at this point, the last time I checked. Um,
Yeah, the
but
Knicks shot 55% in the first quarter and we're down 19.
19, yeah, they're down like 35 points right now. They got like they have 96 points, 90, 93, 94 points, and it's 9 minutes left in the game, and they're down 35 points. It's nothing you can do when people are just hot.
The champs are here.
Champs are here. Speaking of champs, I fear that referees once again are going to play a bigger role in championship games than necessary at all levels. I've talked about the referees before. I think my biggest problem that I have with referees is they behave as if they didn't make a bad call ever. Like every call they made was spot on. Couple things I noticed. I believe it was a call against LSU last week. They got a guy for targeting. And what can he do if he's trying to go low and the other guy is falling down as he's trying to, like, you tell everyone, don't hit anybody in the head. These guys try to go low and hit him in the waist. The receiving player, the player with the ball, the offensive player, leans in to try to get his shoulder in, and the heads collide. You're like, oh, that's on the defense. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Then they review it and they uphold it, kick a guy out. It happened again in the Georgia game. But the main thing I'm talking about is the reversal of the call in the Texas-Georgia game. I know it didn't have any true effect on the outcome, but it did swing momentum. My issue is, if you guys aren't familiar, they had the pass interference call on Texas's interception. Texas returns it inside the 10. Then the student section starts throwing trash onto the field. And then in the midst of that, in that break that the refs had to deal with that, a conversation was had. They came back out and said there was no pass. After further discussion, there was no pass interference, Texas ball. And it's like, what rule did you apply to this discussion? Like I said, you can see my military retirement certificates are behind me. Everything is always like, okay, what reference did you use for this action? Hey, I'm allowed to apply for basic preference because I'm at 5 years. I've been at this base this long. I'm a first term airman per AFI 36, 2618, or whatever the regulation. Like, it's a paragraph in there that says I can do this. Or something you want to do is say, hey, there can be an exception to policy. But something has to be pulled from in order for you to change these situations. They just talked during the chaos and said, yo, I didn't really see it. You sure? Like, I guess maybe I did see it, maybe I didn't, but it's like, how do you do that in the game? Because what if Texas would have came back? I mean, like that, and that changes the whole game. And they end up losing the game on the last second field goal because you gave them the possession, you gave them momentum at home. The targeting calls, just the bad calls in general, is like, I get that refs are going to miss calls, but if something's close on the field, then the refs on the field, once it goes to New York or go to some other subsidiary to review it, that should be the final word. Because some of these calls you see is like, all right, like the Miami Virginia Tech game is like, you reviewed that for about 7 minutes, came back and overturned it. That looks suspicious. Like I said, I don't believe anything is set up, but it's like, if you got the call wrong, then you should send it off and let them correct it with all the camera angles, or at least get the camera angles that the TV has. Like, you shouldn't be limited in your replay review. Like, you shouldn't have less camera angles than CBS. Like, if you're looking at the film, so it's like, it's just there's so many problems that comes along with the way that they are managing the referees. But it's like, they better figure it out before this championship run starts, because it's looking like it's going to be a dandy of a fucking college football playoff. It's going to be a lot of teams that, like, we're going to get into who's undefeated, who isn't. You know, you got teams like Indiana, BYU, Boise State's going to try to claim this. It's going to be a lot of games where it's going to matter, to where you make a couple of bad calls against BYU and they get that loss, and now all of a sudden the 9-3 LSU team gets in because BYU didn't get in because of a bad call. You know, stuff like that. So they really need to iron this out, because I don't want the refs to have an impact. I don't know. I don't want to know the referees' names when the championship games are going on.
Fair enough. It's kind of crazy when you think about it because literally in the Texas game, a lot of times when you see pass interference overturned, it's usually right away. Like last night we had an instance in Tampa Bay and Baltimore where Tampa was trying to make their comeback. Ravens corner jammed the receiver at the line. Wrong game. I'm sorry, Chargers and Cardinals. The Chargers were trying to get into their game-winning field goal. They were jammed at the line. Refs threw the flag because the ball was thrown, and immediately the other refs came over and was like, that was uncatchable. You know what I'm saying? And of course it was uncatchable because dude held him at the line before he could even get off. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, but Harbaugh was losing his mind on the sidelines. I mean, he was going berserk. And I couldn't disagree with him because even though the ball was uncatchable, like if the ball is thrown over there, you still have to let the receiver do something.
Well, if you're within that 5 yards,
you're within the 5 yards, yeah,
it's free range.
So
6 yards the penalty,
and then you go
5 yards, and you got to get stronger on the outside.
But then when you go look back at it, you go, well, then maybe the flag shouldn't even have been thrown in the first place.
The problem is my last 2 weeks, my son's high school football games, we had a play where our quarterback was running, he got hit. It looked like a tackle. He landed on the linebacker, but I don't think he touched the ground. The refs on the field blew the whistle immediately. He gets up thinking that he wasn't down, but the whistle was blown. They must have blew their whistles, and then he gets hit by like the safety coming in. The two refs throw their flags and then talk to each other and wave the flag off.
Right.
It's like, both of you threw flags. How'd you talk yourselves out of the flag
that you threw?
That both of you threw. They threw at the same time. One threw one from the goal line, one threw one from the sideline. The flags basically touched.
That's ridiculous.
Where the penalty was, and then they talked to each other and was like, not waving it off. And I was like, what the hell? And then we got they got another penalty on the next play, like roughing the passer. And then there was a face mask penalty. Like they came in to sack the quarterback. They got the face mask. So we had the ball at the 8.
Mm-hmm.
Drop back penalty. They moved the ball up to like the 14. And I'm screaming from the bleachers, like, yo, that's a 15-yard penalty. And they're like looking around at each other. I'm like, move it more, like to the 23. And I'm looking at the coaches, like, no one's like,
why is nobody bringing
this
up?
We're at a high school and y'all don't know how to do math. But once again, like that impacts the game because sometimes, like in high school, for some reason, personal fouls aren't automatic first downs. Like, so if it's like 3rd and 25 and you get a face mask, then it's just 3rd and 10. I'm like, that has to be wrong. But that seems to be the rule. But I'm like, it was 2nd and 10 from the 8. The ball should be 1st and 10 from the 23. They were like at the 16, and they moved and they picked it up and they were looking at each other. I'm like, y'all can't be this confused. And that was the beginning of the game. I looked at one of the dads. I'm like, this is going to be a tough game. They're going to have to win it because these refs are going. And they were butchering it all day long. It's like.
Yeah. That's nuts.
Yeah.
But the referees didn't necessarily affect this unless you think they did. Because there was a play on the same drive. Patrick Mahomes did his best Reggie Bush and Cam Newton impersonation. He's running up the sideline, quick pause, pump the ball. Defender was scared to hit him because he's Patrick Mahomes. He gets to the end zone. He hits Mustafa, who looks like he should be in WWE. But for somehow, Patrick Mahomes knocked him over. So physics. I came up with a solution to stop Patrick Mahomes and this Chiefs referee thing that people think are going on in the league. Bring back Bounty Gate.
God, I read that. I read that comment.
Put
like 2
Patrick
hours ago.
Mahomes on his ass. There's no reason. Look, I get it, right? You don't want to hit the quarterback, that particular quarterback, because no other quarterback probably gets the grace that he gets. The same way that when you got close to Tom Brady's feet, there was a flag coming. Ask your guy Grady.
Grady Jarrett, yeah.
Yeah, Grady Jarrett. Yep, ask him about it. You get close enough to Tom Brady, that flag was coming. But you saw Cam Newton get smacked up every single week. You know what I mean?
Allen was the same way.
Josh Allen, Andrew Luck. These guys got pounding after pounding. Pause. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? But Patrick Mahomes seems to get these, you know, and it goes back to, even though it was the correct call, it goes back to that Bengal Chiefs AFC Championship game where he ran out of bounds. It was the right call, you know, but it was one of those calls that I think a lot of people, whether they were right or wrong, the thought was, do y'all call that if it's the other way around? Because the Chiefs just seem, I'm not saying there's anything, you know, going on, but the Chiefs just seem to benefit from these things, you know? So as I was watching this game.
But I think they benefit from it because ultimately when these calls happen, good, bad, or indifferent, they still win.
They take advantage of it.
We can go back to, because I had this conversation with my pops. The game against the Bengals, where they had the hands to the face on the, like it was 4th and 6. Mahomes completed the pass for 11 to 12 yards, converted the first down. They had the hands of the face penalty that backed them up to 4th and 16. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and then when they got the pass interference call, everyone was like, oh my God, I can't believe they got that call. I'm like, yo, they just got a 4th down conversion and had a penalty. So the thing is, they just, when they have a play like that, they just come back and they still make it happen. They still ultimately end up winning the game. I think everybody gets bad calls. Like it's like Aaron Rodgers called it out. He's like, the roughing the passer on him wasn't roughing the passer when Milano was trying to punch the ball out last week.
So I think we need to create a new segment, you know, because we got Get It Off My Chest. I think we should create I Want to Know. And I want to know that why is it whenever, you know, this Shanahan guy, Kyle Shanahan, gets in these big games, he forgets that it's the run game that got him to where the 49ers get to.
It got his father to multiple Super Bowl championships.
But he seems to not want to do it. Like, I don't know, like, because I know, like, Christian McCaffrey isn't there. But that's not an excuse because Jordan Mason is second in the league in rushing. And, you know, so when I look at this, they had 31 passes. Brock Purdy attempted 31 passes against the Chiefs. And taking out Brock Purdy's 8 scrambles or runs, they ran the ball 16 times. That's not a formula to beat the Chiefs.
But we see it every single time there's a dynastic team with a quarterback that's playing at a different level than everybody else historically, even not in that moment. We saw it with Tom Brady. We saw it with Peyton Manning. We saw it with Drew Brees. We saw it with like Green Bay's Aaron Rodgers. Sometimes these coaches get out there and they just forget points are points no matter who you're playing.
Right.
Because I hear all the time, you know, commentators, you get down to the red zone, it'll be the first drive of the game. Kansas City won't even have the ball yet. And you're at the 6, and they're like, it's 4th and 1 from the 6. They're like, you know, you're not going to beat this team with kicking field goals. I'm like, you can beat 3-0. You can beat 3-0. Like, if you get 3 points and they don't score, then you can win that game. But, like, so that's what I think that's what they do. So you get a few. Because Kansas City, like, I don't know how they have the talent that they have, like, across the board. Like, their defensive line, granted, Chris Jones makes it work because, like, everyone else can play their position. Then you got Bolton and Chenault, and then you have what's the boy named Drew Tranquil. You know, so they just have such an elite front 7 that you think you have to get away from the run game. It's like, man, just keep running it, dink and dunk. Just do what you have to do to get points.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the Ravens, the 49ers should be the team that runs play action the most. and to run play action, you just got to have the threat of the run. And like I said, you have the second leading rusher in the league, so why not run? And I mean, Brock Purdy at this point, 9 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. The crazy part about what the Chiefs are doing is that Mahomes right now is sitting on 6 touchdowns with 8 interceptions. So it's not even one of those things where, 2 years ago, it was like Mahomes is just dominating. He's leading the team. Y'all know that he's only going to get better as the season goes on, right? So it might be.
No, honestly, I think he's going to stay like this.
You think he's going to stay like this the whole season?
I think it's 1 touchdown, 1 interception, maybe a 2 touchdown game. Because I think they don't have the receiving core threat that he probably wants, but he knows like if I don't turn the ball over at the 40, we'll be fine.
Like, well, that's why I'm scared.
The ball off.
That's why I'm scared because I just got this.
But I don't think their offense is going to get better. I just
it's not that.
You're going to have to attack with your whatever your strength is offensively as a team when you play them. You just got to stick to it.
That's not what I'm afraid of.
You do.
That's not what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid they're going to go out here and go get Cooper Kupp.
I was thinking that too.
That's what I'm scared of. But before we even do that, we got to play our game again. Tell me when the Chiefs lose their first game.
All right.
So I got it right here. So they got the Raiders this week, on the road.
That's a win.
They get somehow, I don't know how this works, but they get Tampa on Monday Night Football next week. Even though Tampa was just on Monday Night Football this week.
Wait, hold on. So the next game is what?
So they get the Raiders this weekend. Then they get Tampa next Monday night.
In 2 weeks?
Yes, in 2 weeks, yes.
Okay.
Then they get Denver. So the Tampa game and the Denver game both at home. Then they go to Buffalo.
That's not 9-1 right there. Buffalo gets them.
The Buffalo gets them?
Buffalo gets them, yeah.
Okay.
Buffalo gets them because Buffalo has Amari Cooper, and we could look at the highlights. We could talk about the game that they had. Having Amari Cooper, and I watched the highlights. Having Amari Cooper in the lineup, it moved Keon Coleman to the second best defender or in the slot. Like you're just allowed. You got Shakir open. Cooper in Buffalo is what people thought Adams to the Jets were going to be for Wilson. So we saw Keon Coleman have the best game of his career by far. And all they did was just bring in one guy that could just take the coverage over here, and Keon can just run wide open underneath. So I think Buffalo will be able to stick to that, and that's how they're going to get Kansas City.
Okay. So I know y'all play Tampa this week. Why was Chris Godwin on the field?
Okay.
Why was anybody on the field? Why was anybody on the field?
Before that, they were down 23 and scored a touchdown and went for 2 instead of just kicking an extra point to be down 16.
Okay.
No one's talking about that. If you kick the extra point and make it, you're down 2 possessions. But no, you were down, like they were going to be down. Yeah, they would be down 2 possessions.
Yeah, they would be down 16.
Yeah, but instead they were down 17, got the onside kick, and then went for 2 to be down 9. It's like, well, it's pointless.
You still need the field goal either way.
So it's like they end up kicking, like they if they would have gotten the extra point, been down 16, then got the onside kick, and they would have been down and touchdown. So once that was not a possibility, they should have been off the field. Because like you're not going to, the likelihood of you getting 10 points in less than a minute and getting another extra point when only 2 had been converted all season long, it just was unlikely. Now Chris
Godwin looks like he's out for the season, dislocated ankle. Mike Evans, of course, got hurt the first quarter last night. So, getting Atlanta in this weekend. But, while we're talking about Atlanta, I'm going to clear out what the hell happened down at the compressor this weekend, Mr. Logical?
Listen, sometimes, man, when you win games by the skin of your teeth, every once in a while you just get manhandled because you can't keep winning games last possession. I know they had the good showing against Carolina, but Andy Dalton was moving the ball up and down the field. It just sometimes it happens to where another team comes in, their quarterback, wide receiver group is just hot. The running back was on his birthday, so he's trying to do his thing. I'm not worried. You're gonna get a loss. The only problem that I have is that at 4-2, it felt like they were on ascending, and at 4-3, because if you think about it, the Colts are also 4-3. You know what I mean? So it's like
shots fired.
I mean, like, I'm not trying to be, but like they've had like a quarterback go out. They got he was out for a game. They brought an old guy in, and then they brought the young quarterback back.
Jonathan Taylor's still not back.
Jonathan Taylor's out. So it's like they have like issues in their 4-3. The Steelers, if Steelers would have ended up, like I said, if they would have lost, their 4-3 would have looked like, damn, we put a lot of effort in with Justin Fields. We bring Russell Wilson, and now we're 4-3. See how it looks different. It looks promising for Indianapolis because it's like, oh, Houston hasn't pulled away. We can claw back into this. But Atlanta was like, they're at the top of the division, but it feels like you're at the top of a fleeting division. So like your wins don't feel like, it feels like, well, at least we're number one in our division. It doesn't feel like you won 4 out of 5
games. And I mean, and you're still in a great position, right? Because now Tampa's without their top 2 receivers. Carolina's Carolina. Derek Carr's still out. So this is the time to build.
Like, listen, you might as well just go ahead and let Bryce Young play. If you're gonna go out there and lose 40-7,
well, he might have to. I saw Andy Dalton was in a car accident earlier. Like nothing serious, but we'll see.
Listen, if Andy Dalton was just got a traffic ticket, I'd bench him for that. So it's just like, what's the point of playing the veteran backup and still losing games by 2 and 3, 4, 5 possessions back-to-back weeks? Like, what is Bryce Young learning from that? He can learn. Hey, if he goes out there and he throws 2 bad interceptions or he misses a check down, or he can learn, okay, you know what? Next time I got to hold the safety in the middle of the field a little longer in my eyes to get this pass off. He can't learn that watching Andy Dalton getting torched. Like, Andy's not going to come over there and be like, hey, man, you know what I should have done? Because that's not how the world works. It's like he has to see it. You got to give him an opportunity to see it. But if you're not going to do it, then that's pointless. But Atlanta got that ass spanked.
They did.
I think the most disrespectful thing was DK Metcalf blocking AJ Terrell without moving. I don't know how it wasn't a hold or how he didn't punch DK in the stomach or something. Like, I'm getting a penalty. Like, I mean, like, fuck it. They're already about to score. I'm slapping him.
Yeah, and DK got hurt as well, week to week. So, Seattle gets Buffalo coming in this weekend. We had the Battle of the North going on this weekend. We had Detroit against Minnesota. And if you just look at the statistics, it's probably one of the most even games you ever see. But when I was watching the game, I felt that Detroit was hands down the better team. And, there was no questions left on the table. If it wasn't for the Montgomery fumble, then they win that game pretty easily. And then, of course, there was the botched punt earlier in the game as well. But Jared Goff has the highest 3-game passer rating since 1971. So, question, Mr. Logical.
All right.
Are the Lions the Super Bowl favorite right now?
Well, I picked them. At Kansas City, Detroit was my Super Bowl matchup. In the NFC, I say yes. Because like I said, I think their success, I think they're on the ascent. I think teams like San Francisco going to decline. I think Green Bay, I mean, Jordan Love is playing lights out. Like, he has 15 touchdowns. He only played 5 games.
Yeah, he got a lot of picks too.
Yeah, he 8 picks. So it's not crazy. So at least you're like making up for it. Like, in 6 games, Mahomes has 8 picks. I think
but Jordan Love missed 2 games.
That's what I'm saying. But even with that, he has 15 touchdowns. So he's twice as many touchdowns at least.
Right.
I think Aaron Rodgers is somewhere around 7 or 8 as well. 6, 7, or 8, somewhere in that range. But his second interception in the Pittsburgh game was silly. But yeah, so I just feel like there's not a lot of NFC teams that you can definitively count on week to week. Like I said, Atlanta at 4-3, they look like the darlings of football for a month. But if you look at it, I think they won all those games by a total of like 9 points, like nine to 10, something like that. But one was 6 in overtime. Everything else was like 2 or 3, and then they had to blow out against Carolina. But like I said, Andy Dalton was moving the ball up and down the field. They just got a couple of timely turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think people like the Eagles, but some of these teams seem like different teams week to week.
Well, their offense, the Eagles, their offense is still a work in progress, it seems like. And I wanna see this game this weekend because they're going to the other Ohio team, not the Browns. They're going to the other Ohio team who's fighting for their season as well. So, I think that could be a good game. I got it as a toss-up right now. But Philadelphia, I don't know what to take from them outside of Saquon's really fucking good. They sacked the Giants 8 times, but they gave up 5 sacks to the Giants. So,
the Giants they have a good defensive front. It's just that they, once again, they look like a lot of NFC teams. Some teams can look like the bad version of the Giants 1 week, and then the next week look like the good version of the Lions. Most NFC teams, it looks like that. Except for Detroit's pretty consistent. Green Bay's kind of Minnesota. We thought they were going to be in this end. Like they might. It's a real possibility that Minnesota can go from 5-0 to not make the playoffs.
Well, since we're there,
they have the quarterback that doesn't really have a history of being great after October.
Well, since we're there, you giving the Rams a chance on Thursday night?
No.
No. I think they have a chance. I mean, you got the whole student against the people.
You still need weapons. No matter what, you need weapons. Like I heard someone say this. I think it was like Teddy Bruschi or someone. But he was like, the beginning of the game is about the coaches. The end of the game is about the players. And then I heard someone else said is like, I know it's X's and O's, but it's also Jimmy's and Joe's. So at a certain point, it's like, yeah, the coach can have everything laid out, but the players have to put it in place. And when you just are down weapons that you need, skill position weapons that you need, it's just if it becomes a shootout, or if it becomes a very tight game and you like 3rd and 8 and you need Cooper Kupp to run that perfect route and you don't have him, it could be a sack on 3rd down, just incompleting the punt. So like that kind of stuff, that's the stuff that really hurts teams. Because every drive isn't going to be a touchdown, but you want to be prepared or have your weapons to get you on the field.
Right. Yeah. Something that I noticed, and I usually leave the X's and O's to you because you get into your whole bag about cover 2, cover 6, whatever. And then I was playing NCAA the other day, and I was like, cover 9, but
it's like a combination.
Yeah, but I was watching the Lions play against Minnesota, and what I had noticed was they looked like some of their formations and what they were doing, like some of their schemes, took me back to 90s football. Like it wasn't quite I formation, but they were bringing in their receivers. They weren't so far out. They were kind of in. So as they were running the ball, the receivers were there to have those extra bodies in position. So, I wonder, and I know it's a minor detail in the grand scheme of things, but I wonder if that's something we're going to start seeing more teams do that play Minnesota.
Like just bringing their...
like kind of cutting off the perimeter because the Vikings get you from side to side, but bringing those receivers in, I can go right at you.
You want to control the edge, and because it's a lot of space. Like I talk about football feels like 52 yards wide, so your formation from tackle to tackle, you're right in the middle of the field. So if you can get the edge sealed. And you guys coming downhill, that's 5 or 6 yards every touch because your safety has to come meet him. Like if you can get the corner sealed on the edge, or if you get the linebacker sealed and the quarterback, that corner has to come from outside in, and you have a guy like Montgomery running back 230 coming downhill. Like even if the corner's there to make the tackle, he's going to be coming downhill so fast that it's going to be 4 or 5 yards before he makes contact with him. And if he doesn't get a good grip on a big back like that, that's a 10-yard run.
Right.
So I think a lot of teams you just want to scheme. You want to use your players to make your scheme work, and that's why I say a lot of times it can work. Like I said, just having Amari Cooper in the slot and Keon Coleman was having a great game. Cooper just ran right up the seam for a touchdown. Like little things like that happen throughout the game. That's why when teams start slow, it ends up like not. It's always a surprise in the second half when guys start getting points together because we've already kind of figured out what you're doing. But if you can get in there and make your adjustments, then that's the key piece. Is like who makes better adjustments. But like I said, your adjustments are also predicated on the weapons you have.
Right. And then we saw the Giants bench Daniel Jones for a quote unquote spark. So this week they play the Steelers. So I wanted to ask you, now that we got a game under our belt.
You're not throwing Drew Lock out there against the Steelers.
No. That wasn't what I was going to ask you. You know what I'm saying? No, but now that we got a game under our belt, how do you feel today versus how you felt when you thought that Russell Wilson could end up being the starter?
Russell Wilson played the same game Justin Fields would have played. Let's keep it on it. Maybe Justin Fields doesn't stretch it down the field as much, but Russ completed 16 for 29. That's like 53%. There was like 3 circus catches. It just looks like the thing with Russ, I think that helped them is the fact that he doesn't look like play to play like he's only completing half his passes. Whereas Justin Fields, like he kind of just gets jittery. Russ just stays with the flow. He hits the play action, checked it down to the tight end. They ran that play like 3 or 4 times. It worked once. He ran Sauce Gardner. He didn't really run Sauce Gardner over. Like he really went at Sauce Gardner, the big tight end, 6'7".
Yeah, Darnell Washington.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like that was probably like the most yards they got off that play or any play that's kind of really like that. But the moon ball to Pickens, the first one, was underthrown. Like it wasn't a back shoulder; it was underthrown. Like he didn't intend it. He wanted to go deeper. Pause, but it was underthrown. He adjusted to it. Still was a great catch.
Right.
The other one also was underthrown because it hit the Jets defender's shoulder and just bounced up in the air like Madden. And then he caught it and bounced again. He caught it again.
Freiermuth had a great catch.
And the Freiermuth had a great catch. So like those 3 plays kind of sparked 2 separate drives. And 2 of them shouldn't even been completed passes.
Right.
So that Freiermuth pass doesn't get completed. That was like 3rd down. The same thing with the other Pickens catches. Like at that, if those catches don't get completed, I think he would have been something like 3 for 12. But those 2 passes made it, or those three passes made it like 6 for 12, and he started like getting on a little run.
Yeah, I said that before the season started that Justin Fields should have been the starter in the first place. Just because, just because of Arthur Smith. You know what I mean? And I just think that I didn't see anything that really moved me off of that. And of course, it was Russell Wilson's first game back. So, I don't want to necessarily be too critical and overreact. But I didn't see anything during the game that led me to go, oh, I see why they started Russell Wilson.
I'll say this. A couple of...
Outside of maybe he takes chances. That's the difference. He takes the chances.
Yeah, and it was... Someone said George Pickens was happy to have Russell Wilson out there because he'll take the shot. And I don't know how often running quarterbacks pass up on throwing the ball to open receivers. I know sometimes people don't really always like playing with running quarterbacks. That's why, if you think about back in the day, or like even with Lamar, Lamar doesn't get a lot of top flight wide receivers. Like Devontae Adams
Well, I was going to say, you brought that up. Yeah.
Because sometimes he doesn't throw it on time.
Mm-hmm.
Russell does, even though like I said, they run the throne. I think that's the difference.
So does your outlook
29 his 16 for 29 looked a lot like 21 for 29.
So does your outlook on the Steelers change at all from what you originally thought if Russ is the starter going forward the rest of the season?
It does, because I think defensive coordinators, the defensive teams, they respect him because he's not gonna hurt himself. He's not gonna pass up on an open wide receiver. He's not gonna just get out of the pocket too soon. He's gonna do what he did in Denver, and that's why I felt like Denver just kind of gave him a bad rap, because like you were expecting him to be Mahomes because that's what he used to be before. It's like, I think if he gives Pittsburgh those 22 to 24 touchdowns, 6 or 7 picks, like for the rest of the season, I think they'll win a lot of games, especially considering their division has Cleveland just lost their quarterback. I think James is good. I think people like James, but I don't know if he's a winning quarterback. And they brought in Bailey Zappi for some reason.
Go Toppers.
Then you have Cincinnati, who maybe by the
season
time
is on the line every week.
Season's on the line every week. Maybe by the time they play the first or second Pittsburgh game, their season's wrapped, and T. Higgins' hamstring is too tight to go. Like stuff like that. Like, I'm not like, if you're in Cincinnati and you're 4-8 when you got to play Pittsburgh, is like, nah.
Yeah.
Like, especially like, if you're not going to pay me, I'm like, I might not go out there. And you all know Joe Burrow's health is always, it's sometimes recently it's been week to week.
Yeah, looking at that offensive line, I don't know if he's going to make it through the season. Not wishing anything on him or anything like that. Like, he's getting the bounty gate that Mahomes should be getting. That's where we are right now. I saw, of course, near and dear to my heart, Jaden Daniels with the rib injury. This week is the big matchup against Caleb Williams. So, hopefully he can play. They got him listed as week to week, but take your time.
Are they bruised or cracked?
Take your time. They said it wasn't fractured or anything, so take your time. There's no need to rush them back. I know this is, considered a big game by the networks, but it ain't a big game for the rest of your season. So take your time, nurse your quarterback back to health, and try it again next week. Jameson Williams. Apparently he's gone for 2 games.
Yo, Alabama players got to stop getting suspended. It's making Nick Saban look bad. No.
Yeah, especially for all this stuff wouldn't happen under Saban. I mean, granted, it didn't happen under Saban, but,
The PED thing, because I don't know the science, so I'm not going to sit up here and act like it, like my degrees are in criminal justice and public administration. There's no chemistry degrees over here. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what all this stuff can really do. Like, if it's not straight up steroids, to me, I'm just like, I don't know, like, why you guys are even testing for all the stuff that they're testing for.
Right. No, it's
on top of that with the testing, but like the same thing with James. Excuse me. Like, if it doesn't come directly from the team trainer, just don't take it. Don't go to your personal trainer or the guy you've been working out with in Texas or wherever this hypothetical trainer is for a lot of these guys. Like, Tom Brady got away with it with that Alex Guerrero guy, but everybody thought he was weird. I'm pretty sure in 4 or 5 years there's going to be some Balco-like case that comes out of concerning him. Because that's what happened with Barry Bonds.
Sports Reports is ordered for your allegations.
The same thing happened with Barry Bonds and these baseball guys. They started
cream in the clear.
They started going to these other outside trainers who had different science, and a lot of their science was ahead of the testing. Like, that's all their science was in most of these cases. Like, their PED choices or chemicals were just ahead of whatever league you're in testing.
So, the weirdest stat that I've come across this week? So, I love hard. So, so I was big on the Titans this year. And part of that reason was because they went out and got Calvin Ridley.
man, when you said it, when we had our conversation and you said it, and then you doubled down when we recorded, I was like, Mike is normally on one. I'm like, man, I'm not seeing it.
But check it out though. This is the one that kills me though. 36 targets this season for Calvin Ridley. How many catches you think he got?
17.
12. 12.
He has a 33% catch rate.
Yes. Yes. and here's another one for you. You know, Anthony Richardson, you know, our guy, Anthony Richardson, you know, Q, where you at, Q? You know, 10 of 24 against the Dolphins. That brings his season total to 48.5% completions, 3 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And last thing before we switch over,
when he threw the ball and hit the rafters at his pro day, it should have been like, nah, we're not going.
Well, Anthony Richardson is proof of what happens when you draft a quarterback because he could catch a main alley-oop.
Yeah, I don't like Cam Newton was one of one. You don't need to replicate that. Sometimes you can just go ahead and get you a taller version of Bailey Zappi. Give me a 6'2.5" Bailey Zappi, a pocket passer, little athleticism that can move around, make the throws. Sometimes having a guy like that, because I watched the same thing. Like, you know, for research, I was watching the replays. They called a lot of design runs, and he used his shoulder at the end of a lot of those runs. It's like, did you not learn from your entire NFL career so far to stop running? Did you not learn from Andrew Luck? Mm-hmm. He retired from your. Did the organization not learn from Andrew? Like, it's like, if we're not the only people seeing this in HD. Right. You had a guy literally retire at the same age he just was able to rent cars damn near because he was sick of going to rehab for getting hurt. And you lost your quarterback before that because granted, Peyton Manning wasn't running, but he was like injured. So it was like,
right.
The two top quarterbacks you had didn't go out via retirement. They went out both because of injury. And now you risk it all. You risk a lot taking Anthony Richardson 4th overall, paying Pittman $120 million, and he can't get him the ball.
Yeah, you mortgage your future for a small forward. You know what I'm saying? And by the way, it's Julius Randle time, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Sports Reports is Ordered's favorite NBA player.
Back in LA, the team that drafted him, I'm with it.
You know, and then the last thing I was going to bring up before we move over to college was, so, you know, as I watch WWE and AEW and all the things, I get really annoyed, you know, with the chanting, you know, the guy wins the title when the crowd goes, "You deserve it." I never thought I would hear "you deserve it" to a dude tearing his Achilles by his own home crowd.
But that's the thing. I saw that video. I read in the comments that was WWE sound dubbed over the video.
I don't know, because Jameis, like, definitely, you know, his interview after the game, you know, like where he was talking about kicking people while they down, like, led me to believe
I think people cheered.
Okay.
I think you deserve it. I don't. Like I said, I read those comments. It was like, I was like, you know what? Before I go off the chain with this, like, let me look, and like that was a one comment.
I mean, some people would argue that he did deserve it.
It's Bron still got that defense. I mean, and also I read another comment. Like, by no means am I trying to defend his actions, if you know. But I don't think he was found. I don't know if he was criminally charged.
He wasn't
at all.
No, he just had another recent civil case come out. Yeah.
So, and I get that, you know, like
I don't know. Like, if y'all believe that he's doing all these things, I don't know. Like, that injury might be the worst thing to happen to society then.
I mean, I know in the Air Force, we learned this. You have restricted and unrestricted reporting where, you know, if you want an investigation or you don't, you just want the medical care, or you want your assailant to be, you know, arrested and trialed and punished for it. I think in this sector, maybe there's like, you know, I'll settle out of court because I don't want to go through the public embarrassment of a trial and your history kind of dug up, because in America, when it comes to sexual assault cases, we can be honest, they will bash the victim. They will find any post this individual's ever made, any ex that says, "Oh, he or she likes this kind of X, Y, Z," ruining credibility. That way, they just don't even want to go, because you're literally sitting in a courtroom watching someone who assaulted you just basically get off because other people feel a certain type of way about you. But a lot of them just straight up sued. So you can take that for what it's worth.
Bro, Julius Randle just passed it on 2 possessions in a row. Come on now, you know what I'm saying? This man has got his mind right. You know what I'm saying? But as we stroll over, Uncle O, I'm glad you're here because you've been talking a lot of shit to me all week. You know what I'm saying? But why you going to talk all this shit to me? You got to tell me 2-5 went 10-3 on his upset alerts and his upset picks to include. I told y'all Georgia was coming back. I told you Bama was going down. That was me that said that. Now, allow Georgia to reintroduce themselves. Texas had not played anybody this season. Now, they went to Michigan, big house, 115,000. Vicinity be damned. Michigan's not a good team.
Correct.
You know, they hadn't played anybody that could throw the ball a lick this season. Now, what I will say is that Carson Beck didn't prove that he could throw the damn ball either, because he had, 3 picks by the time the second quarter started?
Yeah, my man just be giving out souvenirs.
Just giving out souvenirs. But Georgia's defense, the bread.
I had a mock draft that he was going to be the first quarterback taken a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he ain't. You know, what I do like about him, though, he is competitive. He does have that, as Mr. Logical would say, the moxie. You know, like he like you saw it the second half against Alabama. You know, like he didn't give up. He came right out there, drove Georgia down the field, got the lead back at one point. So he has that in him. He has that in him. The problem is he got the other stuff in him that'll get you in that position to have to come back in the first place.
Yeah.
You know, but when I look at Texas, Georgia said, you know what? Quinn Ewers is really, really good when he has time to pick you apart. When he can just take a step in one direction and let go of the football, he's still pretty good. But if I make him throw under duress as he's going sideways trying to find, he can't do it. So the question that I want to ask you, because I've seen a lot of arguments about this online. You think Sark was wrong for putting Arch in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why?
Because you don't want, nor do you need a quarterback controversy. You are undefeated, and you have a more seasoned veteran quarterback that's played all year, and then you have this highly touted backup. Now what you did, you put him in, he gets strip sacked, you still lose, so now all week long, you're going to hear, so who's going to start next week? Who's going to start next week? Or in the next big game, is Quinn looking over his shoulder? And I know, like, he shouldn't fall for the pressure, but it's like there was no need to put Arch Manning in the game.
Look, dog.
What did he benefit from it?
Look, dog. My job as a head coach
against Louisiana Monroe. How did Arch Manning look against Louisiana Monroe?
My job as a head coach.
No, answer my question now. Like, I just don't avoid my question before how do you look against? That's what I'm saying. Like,
come on, Skip.
Yeah.
No. My job as a head coach is to win games.
Hasn't played anyone that as good as Georgia all year. So Arch hasn't seen any team in his entire college career.
I know
as good as Georgia.
Let me get there. Let me get there.
When they're fired up and they're firing all cylinders, and when they see him come in, it's like, oh, this is fresh meat. You feed into the hysteria that your fans, everyone's panicking, the pressure's on, and then you crack. I think you crack when you do that.
Look, dog. My job as a football coach is to win football games. If my team is a national title contender, this ain't, some 5-3 team that ain't making the playoffs or, whatever the case may be. Now,
if you're 5-3, you put them in.
Now, like the quarterback controversy that you're talking about was going to happen one way or the other. Whenever Texas lost and Quinn Ewers lost the game, that's what you were going to hear. You were going to hear, is Arch the man? Why is Arch not playing? Hold on. You got your shit off. Hold on.
Yeah,
Let me get my shit off real quick.
I like this, though. I like when we don't agree.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You got your shit off. We can't have an argument if I don't get to answer the question.
All right, all right.
You know what I'm saying? So like, check it out, though.
I'm going to mute my mic.
So look, like, Arch, people going to clamor for Arch Manning either way. Whenever Texas lost their game, whether it was to Georgia, whether it's next week to Vanderbilt, whether it's at A&M, people were going to complain and say that Arch is better anyway. Now, you're down in this game. It's early in the first half. Just like the Giants said, right? We put in this backup for a spark. So even if you're not going to plan to play Arch the whole game, you're just trying to get a change of pace. Maybe you need to sit Quinn down for a few minutes, look at something on the sideline and just like, dude, what are you seeing out there? Because this ain't working, whatever the case may be. So going into next season, Texas opens up at Ohio State. Now, the reason I bring that up is back to your point of he ain't never seen nobody like Georgia. Say, okay, he's got on the field. He got it. This ain't simulation. He got it. Now, when we go to Columbus next year, maybe that makes him a little bit better for that. I'm a football coach. Now, as you're doing this, it's in the back of your mind. If Arch comes back and win this game, or if he just plays well, I'm going to have this on my hands. But now I got a reason to put Arch in. If Arch does come back and win this game, if Arch does, play close, they lose by a touchdown or so, okay, I can sit Quinn Ewers anyway, regardless of the controversy. If I determine that we are a national title contender and my job is to win national titles.
You're in the SEC, you lose that game, you're still 7-1.
You are.
Or 6-1, right?
You are, but 6-1, I believe. But it depends on how you lose. If they still lose, if they lost 38-3, you're probably playing Arch anyway.
They're Texas. They're in the SEC. They were going to be fine. My problem was you have a whole week to plan for Georgia. They're beating that ass. What makes you think that of everything you got on your call sheet, all the athletes you have at running back, your size up front at offensive line, your tight end play, the depth you have at wide receiver, the speed you have at wide receiver, if none of that's going to give you a spark, what makes you think the guy who hasn't played a defense that looks anything like that going to give you a spark? Quinn Ewers was going to be your spark. You ride or die. You go to the big dance. You dance with who brung you. Quinn Ewers is your guy. You had Arch in the building. He got his few games when Quinn was injured. You got to see what he could do. He was not ready to go into the powder keg that was the Georgia defense in the middle of the game.
If you don't know that.
You knew that based off how he played against
If you knew that, you wouldn't have put him in the game. If you knew that, you wouldn't have put him in the game.
That's the thing. Coaches don't always know. Sark used to be the offensive coordinator for Atlanta. I know he don't always know stuff.
He's been clean. Stop that.
I'm not talking about his drinking. I'm talking about his decision making.
No, at the end of the day, your job is to win football games. Your quarterback was getting his ass kicked. It's okay to bench him.
So how is the younger, unexperienced quarterback gonna? This isn't back in the day.
It don't have to be.
You don't just get the
look at some of the top quarterbacks around the country. They aren't seniors.
I'm talking about you've seen him play though. I'm not saying Arch Manning isn't legit and he's not dope and he's not going to be good going forward. I just don't think that if you have an idea and you have all this talent offensively and you're thinking like, I got to get my starting quarterback out, who's probably potentially a first-round NFL draft. I got to take him out of this game and bring in a guy who started 2 or 3 games. Like, that's one thing. Is like, I think coaches panic in those moments. It's like, listen, big picture. if you lose this game, you go down swinging with your guy. When you go to the podium next week, the questions about Arch Manning starting, like, listen, Quinn is our guy going forward. We believe in Quinn. We just ran into a really, really, really tough Georgia team. They've won 50 of their last 52 or 53 games. It's like
their last 5 losses are all to Alabama.
All to Alabama. So it's like we didn't. It wasn't like we were out there against Texas Tech and he was struggling, and I wanted to see. So, but now the conversation is like he's gonna have to answer multiple questions about Arch Manning going forward, because you've already opened the door to how much confidence.
That's why you get paid the big bucks.
Well, you get paid the big bucks to not panic.
Just like when the Steelers lose a game, people going to say, is Justin Fields going to play? That's just the nature of the game.
But that's the difference. Justin Fields was already playing. So look at the conversation when he said, I'm going to start Russell Wilson. It was like, so that was the whole conversation all week. But that's at the professional level. You also have professional tape.
And Arch also brings a running threat to the game that Quinn Ewers doesn't have. And the problem is that he wasn't getting time to throw passes. So therefore, I'm going to try to dude out with some legs and see if we can get something.
Or how about you look at the call sheet and say, how do I get the ball to Blue in the flat? Maybe I get it out quicker. Or maybe I run some draw plays. Or maybe I run some screen passes. Maybe I look at this call sheet and
they came out in the second half and they played better. So no harm, no foul.
And rely on my game plan and not throw a panic Hail Mary in the second quarter about putting this guy in. What if that shattered Arch's confidence? What if he was like,
that shit wasn't going to shatter his confidence? He got a whole offseason next year.
How much?
He got a whole offseason next year. If Georgia was going to shatter his confidence a couple of nights ago, his confidence going to get shattered in Columbus next year.
Okay, cool. How confident is Bryce Young when you see him stand on the sideline right now? He got benched for Andy Dalton.
Bryce Young is like our height.
He's professional.
And he's smaller than us. That's different. Arch Manning is football royalty.
He spent multiple years under Nick Saban and under all of that pressure, and look at the lack of confidence he has. Look at Justin Fields' face.
Bryce Young just went to a shitty-ass team that doesn't have any other talent on it.
Check it out. I drove and dropped my daughter off out the Pittsburgh area that day, like on Sunday. I drove out there. It was very warm. It was like 70-something degrees. First half of the game, Justin Fields didn't have a jacket on when Russell Wilson was struggling. Was standing there, helmet in hand, helmet on his head, no coat on. Russell started cooking. He was sitting on the bench, no helmet with his coat on. It's like, because you could tell he probably thought, I'm gonna get back in this game.
Nah, bro.
Like, because Russ started to cook. I'm telling you, I watched the whole. I watched them, and
this so next year, if Arch comes out and struggles in that first game at Columbus, I know. I'm asking you a different question. If Arch comes out in that game at Columbus next year and struggles, are you going to say, "Well, that's their fault. They should have scheduled Western Michigan first"?
Oh, I think all these top schools should schedule like bum first, like Western Kentucky or something like that. I got you. No, like I think all the top schools should just play.
Yeah, like, holler at me when Park get a team. I'm just saying that at the end of the
don't worry about the Pirates. Baby.
Yeah, let me know when the Pirates get a team. You know, but I'm just saying that at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Like, look, you know, Arch Manning was brought there. He's football royalty. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with my team is stuck in the mud right now. Let me try to switch something up. Because if they would have lost 38-3, people would have said, why didn't Arch play?
But I'm good with that. But they didn't lose 38-3. They didn't need to put Arch in because he didn't give him a spark.
I'm not saying that they needed to. I'm not saying that they needed to. I'm just saying I don't have a problem with it.
I have a problem with it.
I don't have a problem with it.
Because I look at it like, yo, you're currently undefeated. There's no need to go away from what you've been doing all year. Yes, you need to make in-game adjustments. I get that. But you don't need to shuffle players. You don't need to shuffle people around. I think personnel management and mental management of people is that's the key to your success as a coach. He has to be calm in the face of this fire. I think that was more of a panic move versus a strategic move. Because if they would have called like a bunch of just immediate quarterback runs with him, and brought Quinn Ewers in, I get it. Or if you had like a backup quarterback that was primary runner, like what Michigan had with Orgy, I can see that. But what you have with Arch and Quinn is the same thing, and Arch Manning's a little bit more athletic. But he looked very athletic against the University of Louisiana Monroe. No one's going to look
I will
very
have you
athletic
know that
against
the
Georgia.
University of Louisiana Monroe is atop the Sun Belt right now, so don't be disrespectful.
They are not Georgia.
Nobody's Georgia. That's the point.
Look at the Philadelphia Eagles defense.
Nobody's Georgia.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, he wasn't going to be able to do all of that herky jerky quick. Oh my God, you know, Arch Manning running like his grandfather.
I don't think it hurt anything. But moving on,
I don't think it hurt. I don't think it was necessary. I don't think it hurt either player. I don't think Quinn Ewers is going to be like, oh my God, Arch is going to take my spot, and I don't think Sark's going to bench Quinn.
Right.
But I don't think it benefited the team to the point where I think it floured the quarterback controversy flower pot that could have just stayed dry.
Okay, fair enough. Opinion. Fair enough.
I like when we disagree. That's good. That was healthy.
Yeah. Fuck all that. Let's go to war. But you know, down in Knoxville, you know, as I was saying, you know, Tennessee beat on Alabama. Now, you know, we were talking about Calvin Ridley earlier, the 12 catches on 36 targets. Ryan Williams, the 17-year-old, because, of course, in my preview, what I said was Tennessee is too reliant on Jalen Milroe and the 17-year-old. So in this game, Alabama, they threw the 17-year-old 20 targets. 20 targets. He caught 8 of them. You know, and to date, including the Tennessee game, the Alabama backfield has not combined for at least 70 yards in any of their 4 SEC games.
Got to run the ball.
Got to run the ball.
You just got to run the ball.
But they are running. That's the problem. They are running the ball. They're running it with Milroe, who
running with the running backs.
And to me, Milroe don't look right.
Don't use their running back.
Milroe doesn't look right. And I don't like when quarterbacks like him don't look right because he ain't a quarterback in the first place. So you need to have him as healthy as you can. You out here getting beat on and taking punishment, and now he can't even do the thing that he's best at.
It's like I said, sometimes you just I think every organization, and I say this when I'm at work, I'm like, every organization needs someone that's in the organization that's completely outside of the chain of command as far as like any kind of punishment. Like you need a completely impartial person, like the neurology consults that are at NFL games. They're not team doctors, and they're strictly there for players and concussion symptoms. Like, hey, get that guy off the field. They don't care if it's the Raiders versus the Broncos.
Oh, they care if it's Josh Allen.
I don't know how they got away with that, but maybe someone distracted them. They brought in like some waitresses with like chicken wings. Like, oh, we got some smoked chicken wings. Like, oh, really? And then they just lost their train of thought.
Yeah.
But you need somebody that's like, yo, you need to run the ball. Like, not someone that like a coach can say, man, get out of my face. Like, you got a different color hat on. Like, you on the sidelines, bam, you in the blue hat. Like, yo, dog, yeah, listen. You're not running the ball enough. So look at your play sheet and run the ball. Or
you know what Bama did?
It's like you can't have the talent that they have up front and the and with your running and like not get them 20 targets to Ryan Williams. You could have given him 12 targets and got 8 more rushes from 2 running backs, 4 each.
You know what Bama did do though?
You're a missed tackle away from a big gain in the college football game.
You know what Bama did do in this game, though? 15 penalties, 115 yards, 3 for 14 on third down. They got tackled for loss 9 times. They got outrushed 217 to 89. Get them out of here! Get Bama out of here!
You've been waiting on them to fall. Listen, what was their average third down yardage? You probably like
3rd and 7.
3rd and 7.
You know, and that's the thing, right?
If you run the ball, you're not 3rd and 7. If you run the ball effectively, you don't end up in 3rd and 7. Or as average for a game if you're running the ball effectively.
So I was trying to find a way to say this, and shout out to Uncle O because, you know, keep it simple, right? This guy is coming in trying to put his program into place. It's going to take time. Like Nick Saban went 6-7 his first year. And I know that Nick Saban didn't inherit a team that had the talent that this Alabama team has, but also factoring in the fact that Alabama lost a lot of players to the transfer portal. We talked about that when he first took over. So, we talk about the secondary, or I've been talking about the secondary all year. And trust me, Nico missed a lot of open receivers the other day, or that game could have been worse than it was. So now when I look at Alabama, you start to think about it. You go down their schedule a little bit, and you just wonder, how this story plays out. So they get Missouri coming in this week. So you figure they should be all right there, even though their quarterback pulled a Willis Reed and came back to beat Auburn this past weekend. They get their bye week and go to LSU. And then, of course, they get your guys. They get the Mercer Bears.
Yep.
Then they go to Norman. Jackson Arnold is starting that quarterback again. OU just fired their offensive coordinator. And then they host Auburn. So as you look at it, you say to yourself, they could win a lot of these games. They could win out, or they could lose at Death Valley because Brian Kelly hasn't lost a night game there since he's been the head coach, but that doesn't make Bama a playoff team. Like, even if they were to win out, and they will make the playoff if they win out, but I'm just saying that doesn't mean that they are a playoff team.
They got to win out. I don't think.
No, the third loss is going to be bad. Because when you look at the SEC at large, just looking at the SEC at large, Mr. Logical, here's one. And Mike, this one's for you too. Who are the two undefeated teams in the SEC right now as far as conference play goes?
Nah. Florida? No, they're not undefeated. Tennessee?
Nope.
Texas A&M?
Yes.
I mean, it's 32 teams in the goddamn SEC.
I don't think it's quite that many.
Not South Carolina. LSU?
Yes. So Texas A&M and LSU are the only two undefeated teams in the SEC. And oh, by the way, they play each other this weekend. You got Georgia with one SEC loss to Alabama. So there's your tiebreaker if that matters. We'll see what the committee does. But if that matters, Alabama has the tiebreaker over Georgia if it comes down to that. You got Tennessee, who just beat Alabama with one loss as well in the conference. And they still play Georgia, at Georgia, by the way. Then you got Ole Miss still sitting there, even though they have two losses already. So they're not necessarily a factor. But they do host Georgia in a few weeks, So, like, what I say all that to say, the SEC is nowhere near determined yet, because the loser of that LSU A&M game's taking a loss this weekend, and if it's LSU, they got Bama in 2 weeks, so Bama has a chance at a ranked win or like a big time win, in that moment in time. So you just go from there, like. The SEC, the Alabama's not done, but I wouldn't necessarily plan to book any playoff tickets.
Yeah, their losses were pretty bad, considering that.
Now remember, Mike, Tennessee lost down at Vietnam.
They have the talent. Like, even with the people transferring out, Caleb DeBoer still brought in talent. I mean, he was just in the national championship game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Alabama will be fine going forward.
Execution. Sometimes you just kind of fall in love with. You just get enamored with, like, Jalen Milroe, just running them too much, a la Anthony Richardson. You just figure, like, if I keep running my quarterback, he'll pop one. Just run the running back.
Yeah, he'll pop one. It'll be his shoulder. And next time it'll be his ribs, So yeah, you got that going on. This week, coming up, we got a big one up in your neck of the woods, up in MetLife Stadium. We got Notre Dame coming to town to take on the United States Naval Academy. So that's going to be a big game as far as playoff pitcher and all that kind of stuff. You got Boise and UNLV on Friday night. So that's Mr. Logical's team that he chose, to represent the G5 in the playoffs. So this is it.
All my predictions are just kind of some of them are panning out. A lot of them are just fired. Yeah, Navy's going to beat Notre Dame.
Go midshipman. I don't know if I want to go that far just yet. But, so we talk about coaches that are going to get fired and if we think they're going to get fired. East Carolina and Southern Miss have already fired their head coaches. I already mentioned Oklahoma fired their offensive coordinator. Utah's offensive coordinator stepped down. Coastal Carolina fired their offensive coordinator. So it's happening. But a coach that has not been mentioned in the fired talks, he might be safe this year, but he better win at least 9 games next year. The one and only Lincoln Riley, started off the season with the big win against LSU in Vegas. And then he went.
That'd be safe unless he has a recruit lined up or a transfer lined up.
Well, he's not safe if they keep losing, but they went out here. They played Penn State tough. Lost in overtime. No shame in that. The shame was losing at Minnesota the week before that.
Like 2 or 3 4th downs on one drive.
And don't forget, Mike remembers this. They let Michigan go about 90 yards without throwing a pass. With under a minute left in the game. And what did they do this past weekend? They went to College Park, Maryland, and took a 21-7 lead, and then they did not score again. Well, actually, they did score one more touchdown, but Maryland scored and ended up winning the game 29-28. So you done lost to Minnesota and Maryland within a 3-week stretch. I don't know if
it ever happened.
He might not be safe, but I would feel like
I think he's
firing him.
Name, just because it's his name,
right?
But if once again, like I said, if you have that dude with the blue hat in the room, just kind of looking at it like, outside of his Caleb Williams years, what has he done for college football lately? No playoff appearance,
and he's already lost more games at USC than his whole time at Oklahoma.
Yeah, so it's like, what was your advantage you had at Oklahoma? Was it because you were getting Texas talent? And it was a lot of people who, you had a lot of Baker Mayfields who were just upset that Texas didn't recruit him, so they went to Oklahoma.
Right.
Or if it's just like, hey, Oklahoma's a top program. They don't have – because, like, Oklahoma's, like, high school program isn't that great. Half their team's from Texas. Was it just the fact that you were just in a recruiting hotbed?
Well,
you should be good in California, but I don't know if the contract buyout.
So the contract – no, I got it already. The contract buyout is Jimbo status.
Ooh,
what I'm saying? If he get more
weak status,
like his contract buyout is 80.
Ooh.
What I'm saying?
So I know the USC endowment is probably like one of the largest hedge funds.
Well, they fired Jimbo once he got down to like 78.
I thought he got 65.
But that's that oil money though. That's like, that's just a whole different. Let me see here. That was like a whole different thing. Let's see, what did he get? $76.8 million is what Jimbo got.
So he's just literally collecting checks, going on here talking about NIL deals need to be regulated.
Yeah.
Shut your ass up.
But yeah, he's got more. Lincoln Riley has more losses at USC in this 2.5 years than his 5 years at Oklahoma. Purdue also fired their offensive coordinator. So I got to take my hat off. Congrats to the Duke Blue Devils. Beat Florida State for the first time ever.
Yes.
As in, like, ever. So that brings the Blue Devils to 1-22 all time against the Seminoles.
Norvell's fired. You know that, right?
Somebody got to be fired. What I'm saying? Somebody got to go. And, oh, by the way, you know who we got this week? We're going to Coral Gables. So
yeah, he's fired.
You want to take a guess at the spread?
22.5.
21.
Oh,
21.
So good at this.
Oh, there you go. You know what I mean? Shout out to the Illini. Cover your ears, Mike. Shout out to the Illini. They got their first ranked win at home since 1991. That I don't know how that happens, but congratulations, Illini. So here's a question for you, Mr. Logical. And of course, I got the schedule ready for you. Is Michigan going to make a bowl game? So they're sitting here. What up, Lethal? They sitting up in here 4-3 right now. They got Michigan.
5 or 6 to be.
You need 6. They got Michigan State this weekend.
Little brother.
They get Oregon at home.
Nope.
At Indiana.
Nope.
Northwestern.
Yep.
And then they close at Columbus.
Yeah, they'll get Michigan State and Northwestern. I wouldn't go to the bowl though.
6 you wouldn't go to the bowl. Michigan. I just can't even expect. The Buffalo. See why people gotta do stuff like this. Say you gotta come in here making me heated. The Buffaloes are making a bowl. They're 5-2 right now.
Man, don't try to hijack the show.
Don't be trying to be crazy, Lethal. You trying to? I don't know what hey, you know what? I don't know what you're trying to do. At a minimum,
they'll be able to beat Utah.
But at the very least, the question that you should be asking is, can Colorado make the Big 12 championship game? That's the game. That's the question that maybe we should be asking.
Blowing that Kansas State game was huge.
Well, here's the schedule.
Because you had the lead.
Well, here's the schedule.
Lead up on a 50-yard touchdown.
They got Cincinnati at home this weekend.
That's a win.
And just in case y'all were wondering, that is 9:15 or 10:15 Eastern on ESPN. Then they go to Texas Tech after a bye week. They host Utah, and then they close at Kansas at Arrowhead. So, Colorado could go 9-3 here. I picked them to go 8-4 this season, but they could go 9-3. I like the Texas Tech game because they're coming off a bye, but Texas Tech is like the Big 12 version of going to Mississippi State or Arkansas. So it's always going to be tough. They should beat Cincinnati this weekend. They should beat Kansas. And before the season, we wouldn't have said they were going to beat Utah, but I guess now they probably should.
Yeah, they're going to beat Isaac Wilson.
So if all the things break right, Colorado could be sitting there at 10-2. You know what I mean? You got Iowa State and BYU as the undefeated teams in the Big 12 right now.
I mean, when you got the top quarterback in the country, you got a chance.
Always got a chance.
You got the Heisman candidate, and then you have just speed. And like I said, the relationship between the wide receivers and Shador is just it's like seasoned. Like these guys just get open, they get the spots, and no Shador's gonna give them the ball. So yeah, I like.
I'll let me Thursday, Lethal. This ain't prediction night. I gotta look at it. I ain't look at it yet, but I'm leaning LSU, but I can't give you a full answer just yet. Here's one for you. Speaking of Iowa State, undefeated in the Big 12, first place tied with BYU. They let UCF run for 354 yards against them, and somehow UCF didn't win the game. How does that happen? They gave up a touchdown with like 6 seconds left to Rocco Beck, who we brought up during our Big 12 preview. And then of course BYU escaped Friday night. I picked Oklahoma State in the upset, and I be damned, saying if BYU didn't score a touchdown with about 4 seconds left to win that game. So, they're undefeated for now. We'll see what happens from there.
Our rivals are looking really good this year. So as a fan of sport, I like it.
Yeah. And then you got Duke. Duke, like I mentioned, they beat Florida State. They welcome in SMU this week. Can SMU make it to the ACC title game? SMU doesn't play Miami. They don't play Clemson. They don't play Virginia Tech.
And it's top 2 teams, right? There's no
top 2 teams, no divisions. They don't play Virginia Tech. So their remaining schedule, they get at Duke this week, at Pitt, Boston College, at Virginia, and Cal.
I mean, Pitt's gonna be tough. Pitt's undefeated.
They might lose Friday. They might lose Thursday night.
It's a lot of strange.
They got Syracuse coming in. It counts. It definitely counts. Pitt has Syracuse coming in Thursday night. That could be a big game. Kyle McCord, let's see what you got. This is why they brought you here, Paul Pierce style, right? This is why they brought you here. So let's see what Syracuse can do. And I mean, technically, Syracuse is alive for the ACC championship game right now as well. You know,
I think the
now
conference championship game build up is going to be more exciting than the college football playoff because I think the college football playoff is going to be
same old, same old.
it's going to be the same old song, different prom. Uh,
Yeah,
but I think a lot of these teams, especially we have teams like Illinois, 6-1. No one was thinking like they were going to be 6-1 at this point. I think we had them at the bottom of the Big Ten. Indiana undefeated, still BYU undefeated. It's a lot of teams out there playing really good football. Even Colorado, who people probably felt either extremely high expectations or very low expectations, like they're playing really, really good football. They had the bad game against Nebraska. Nebraska came out like they were hot. There was a home game. It's like what Shador said, like it's their Super Bowl, but they had they get comeback wins. Just a lot of big plays that they made, and obviously you have the Heisman.
well, it's about to take shape. It's about to take shape because, like we
so
mentioned,
I like the build up of the individual conference championships.
Yeah, we mentioned it. LSU at A&M this weekend. Next week you got Ohio State going to Penn State. You got Illinois going to Oregon this week.
Penn State pulls that off, and Ohio State's not like you're looking like Penn State really top 5 in the country with a win over Ohio State. Is this their year? I think that's exciting football. I know people might want to just have your standard, your standard Bama, Georgia, LSU every year, but I like the parity. I think the parity is done well. I was talking about with a coworker today at work about the NIL. He's like, I think he thinks the NIL like help balance out a little bit. I'm like, at a minimum, it gives some players some leverage.
Well, I mean,
it doesn't really change that much, but it does. You get a couple players here or there.
Yeah, you got guys like Diego Pavia, who we keep talking about. Went to Vandy, beat Bama. They got Texas coming in this week. Coming off that loss to Georgia. So, what you think the spread on that game is?
Who is that?
Texas at Vanderbilt.
9.5.
18.5.
Really?
But yes, Cam Ward can get to the national title game. They have a good head coach, Mario Cristobal. His decision making leaves a bit to be desired, but he's an offensive line guy, so that's why Miami's always going to be good because he builds his team from the trenches out. And they have Xavier Restrepo. They brought in Damian Martinez as well from Oregon State. So this ain't just Cam Ward. Like obviously they got Mark Fletcher in the backfield as well. So yes, Miami is live.
Some of his throws rolling to the left to the back line in the end zone is like either he practiced the hell out of that throw or he just has just incredible arm talent. Because I've seen him make that throw multiple times this year. It's like sliding to his left, back foot on a rope, back line, back corner, the end zone for touchdowns. I've seen him make that throw like I said 3 or 4 times this year. So
you go to Sanders. You go to Sanders over Ward for me. So real quick, last one. This is your last guess. Notre Dame and Navy. What's the spread?
Navy 3.5.
Notre Dame by 12.5.
How?
Notre Dame by 12.5.
How? Who take that?
Notre Dame at 12.5.
Who come on, like the way.
Well, you got to figure you're talking about the athlete disadvantage that the service academies have going up against one of the best defenses in the country, probably a top 10 defense.
Yeah, but none of those defense stop they don't play.
No, they don't. They lost to Illinois already too.
Yeah, they don't play against that. How many teams have a fullback? Like 3. Army, Navy, Air Force. How many teams get the ball to fullback? Just those 3. Yeah. So you're gonna you're gonna get beat on the fullback dive a couple times because if the fullback isn't like some 280-pound rumbler, it's like a
and Navy got a quarterback that can throw now.
And they have a wide receiver that runs he's like a track athlete. He just wanted to be in the Navy. So
Navy definitely has a chance to win.
Notre Dame 12, because
12 and a half.
12 and a half. So you got Riley Leonard, who's a running quarterback. Cool. We are the service academy, and all we do is practice against a running quarterback. We have no you're not going to fake them out. You're not going to just.
And Notre Dame
for the military.
And Notre Dame got Army in
12.5 points.
They got Army in a few weeks too.
They games by double digits.
Yeah, if you are on X, if you scroll down your X every day, you gotta follow Cal Twitter, or as they call it, the Calgorithm. They've been killing it all year. I feel bad for their football team because they've lost all 4 of their ACC games by a total of 9 points. So, but shout out to the Calgorithm. Indiana, speaking about this lethal, I really like Curtis Rourke as an NFL quarterback. The quarterback at Indiana, only problem is he get hurt so damn much. You know what I mean? So if you can keep the injuries away, he's got a thumb injury now. We'll see how long that keeps him out. Hit it against somebody's helmet. And then here's a stat that I thought was awesome. This one is from Richard Johnson over at CBSSports.com. So Ricky White, I brought him up a couple of weeks ago. He's the wide receiver out at UNLV. And I was saying how, when they make this change at quarterback to Malik Willis, Hodge Malik Rogers, their offense was going to take off, and be even better. But on top of being their best wide receiver, he already has 3 blocked punts, which is more than 120 of the 133 FBS teams this season. So Army and Navy got good this year. So, Mr. Logical, I know you were looking at the top 25 earlier.
Yes.
And to sum it up, this is my take on the top 25. You got these writers, voters, whoever they are. They come up with a narrative during the offseason. They're just regular people like us. Like, hey, I like Notre Dame. Or, hey, I like this team. So they come out with the initial top 25, which don't make no damn sense because ain't nobody played a game yet.
Correct.
I.e., Florida State being ranked number 10 to start the season. Stuff like that. Utah being number 13, I believe it was, to start the season. Stuff like that. But as the season goes on, these teams start losing games. You don't want to be wrong. So if you put somebody that number 15 and they lose a game, you ain't going to drop them out the top 25. You're going to drop them to 20. And then when they lose again, you're going to say they were overrated, but you rated them.
Yeah.
And that's why you look at this. And that's why you brought up Illinois, right? Nobody expected them to be 6-1. Look at where they're ranked right now.
So this is what we got. This is the thing that always just makes me chuckle. So Texas loses to Georgia. No slouch. Georgia goes from 5-2. Texas goes from 1-5. Miami stays at 6, undefeated. To me, Texas has to go below the undefeated ACC leader. That's only right, in my opinion.
Okay. But see, a lot of people
from 9 to 10. They're so undefeated.
Well, a lot of people, as they're doing their rankings, they also do, would I pick this team over this team? So, when you're looking at Texas and Miami, a lot of people are probably saying, would I pick Miami over Texas if they played today? And if the answer to that question is no, I'm going to put Texas in front of them.
Yeah, but that's that.
And also, you got to think about it, right?
They're in their game this week.
Well, you also got to think about it, right? Take a team like SMU, right? Who has a pretty easy schedule, and they're undefeated, or they got the one loss to BYU, but they're undefeated in the ACC right now. So, am I supposed to rank them over say,
Ole Miss? Yes.
Ole Miss?
Yes.
No, I don't think Ole Miss is a good example. I don't want to use
Ole Miss is 5-2 at 18.
Yeah, they're not a good example.
You have behind Ole Miss at 5-2. Pitt 6-0, Illinois 6-1, Missouri 6-1, SMU 6-1, Army 7-0, Navy 6-0, Vanderbilt 25 at 5-2.
But you also got to think about it, right? So Vanderbilt beat Alabama.
He was 5-2 at 15.
They beat Kentucky.
Kentucky's not ranked.
They lost to Georgia State. So you know what I mean? How do you balance it? Is the Alabama win more valuable than the loss to Georgia State hurts you?
Alabama win has Vanderbilt behind two service academies who haven't trailed in a I don't think Army's trailed in a football game.
They have not.
And I think Indiana's in that same boat. But
they
Indiana's at 13. So
because their name is Indiana. Because their name is Indiana. And remember when we did our preview show, when we did our Big Ten preview, I said Indiana's probably going to go 8-4, 9-3 this year. You know what I mean? But somebody sitting in their room across the country didn't think that. So therefore, Indiana's suffering right now in the rankings because they didn't think highly of them during the offseason. But to answer your question, Uncle O, Miami's played nobody. You know, I mean, Virginia Tech's a decent team. You know, Louisville is considered to be decent, but I don't believe in Louisville. You know, Miami doesn't play anybody. They play Florida State this week. You know, they wouldn't play Clemson unless it's the ACC title game. So I don't know who Miami's beat, you know,
hold up real quick.
But that goes back to your point, you know what I'm saying?
Hold on real quick. Interjection. Bronny's in the game in the second quarter. I mean, they're up 14, but I didn't think he was going to get run.
I think Virginia Tech was the toughest.
So yeah, my bad. Yeah, I got sidetracked when I saw it. I was like,
but also you know, but so going back to your original point there though. So do you think in your mind, do you think that Texas is a better team than Miami?
I would just give Miami the benefit of the doubt of being an undefeated Power 5 team. Because especially if you're going to put them right, if Miami was clawing up like Indiana at 13, I'm not saying, you got to drop Texas below them.
Right.
But when you get to undefeated Power 5 school at 6 and you're going to drop Texas to 5, you should drop them to 6 and move Miami up.
But see, that's where the SEC stuff comes in, because whoever you're arguing with would say, well, hey, Texas play in the SEC. And this is where you get into that conversation where they played Georgia.
It's the one we have every year.
Right. Miami's not going to play somebody at Georgia's level. So should I rank Miami ahead of Texas just because they're undefeated, or should the schedule matter as well? To whereas even though you are undefeated, I would be undefeated if I had your schedule too.
Yeah, but your conference is gonna divvy it all out. It's gonna separate, the pit from the poodles. But as far as this week, whatever happens the weekend, before Thanksgiving, that's a different ball game.
Right. But here's another question for you. Here's another one saying, so if you lost to the team that was number 5 and then I move them up to 2, I can't move you down that far if I move them up to 2 for beating you. There's got to be a balance there, right?
But from 1 to 6, that's not that far of a drop when you lose at home. When you get dominated at home, dropping from 1 to 6, that's not the fall from grace. 1 to 16, okay, yeah, that's crazy. But 1 to 6, when the team you got at 6 is undefeated, that's my thing. Is you got a team that's at 6 is undefeated. Granted, I mean, if they've given up maybe 28 points to Louisville instead of the points that they did, maybe that would factor into it.
But see, and that's what I'm saying. I think all that stuff matters. And I also don't think that a lot of these people are actually voting. They probably got somebody doing it for them, or
they have some spreadsheet they send them with analytics.
Yeah, because I know Josh Pate, he does the JP poll, which is not a ranking as he would say, but his poll is based off of who Vegas would favor over who. You know, so that's why I said I wonder if people sit there and go, would I pick Miami over Texas right now if they were to play today? And they use that as the difference in I'm putting Texas ahead of Miami. I'm not saying that that's right, but I just think that that might be a reason that people do it. For me, you know, I don't believe in you should just be moving up and down the rankings. So, like, for example, you know, Oregon was like what, number 3 or number 4? They beat Ohio State. And then it was like, we got to put Oregon at number 1. You know what I mean? Like, or what, that was the conversation. It didn't happen, but that was part of the, I don't think that that one win just, if I didn't think you were number 1 before, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like if I didn't think you were number 1 before, then I'm just, you won a game and now I'm just like, yo, nothing else changed, but you won. So I'm going to put you at number 1. They did the same thing with Texas when they beat Michigan. It was like, oh God, like look what Texas did in Ann Arbor. We got to jump them to number 1. And now we see after the fact, like, look at Michigan. So I don't believe in that either. You either, like, for me, the rankings should change every week, you know, in some ways, you know what I mean? Because week to week, you're playing different opponents, you know, different schedules, so on and so forth. So if you play, say, hypothetically, right, like Alabama, for example, they closed the season at Oklahoma and then Auburn in the Iron Bowl. So if you're Alabama and you're number 10, you win those games back to back if you value at Norman in the rivalry game, then Alabama should move up higher in your ranking, regardless of what the other teams in front of them did.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the way that I view it. So I might have Texas number 1 one week and have Georgia number 1 the next week because it changes week to week.
The rankings are flawed because there's no real algorithm.
The rankings are there for us to do what we're doing right now.
Yeah, this is having these conversations. I'm just watching the game.
Waiting for Bronny to score.
Waiting for him to score. He just took a 3, and now Anthony Edwards is taking it to him. He missed his 3, but yeah.
But yeah, I think the rankings should change. It should be fluid. You know, just like Navy, right? Where's Navy right now?
Navy is 24.
So what do you do if they beat Notre Dame?
4.
Because Notre Dame is what, top 10, right?
Notre Dame is 12.
12, okay. So if Navy beats Notre Dame this weekend,
no matter what Ole Miss does, Navy has to go above Ole Miss.
What kind of bounce should Navy get if they beat Notre Dame? See what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I think.
And how far should Notre Dame fall? Because normally you would look at it and go, they lost to Navy, but Navy's a ranked team, so I can't punish them but so much. Or else you're telling me that your rankings don't even make sense in the first place. Obviously, if Navy comes out and beat them 48-0, that's a whole different conversation. But if Navy just simply wins the game, you know, saying how far does Notre Dame fall for losing to a ranked team on a neutral field?
I think Navy's going to do pretty well. I think defensively they're going to be able to. The quarterback run seems to be one of Notre Dame's biggest weapons offensively. It seems like people can't stop the zone read with Riley Leonard. I think Navy's going to be able to handle that, and I think Army's going to be in the same boat. Just because
Notre Dame will lose to both of them?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Well, there you have it, y'all. Upsets of the year picked right here by Mr. Logical.
Yeah.
You know,
I always feel like Notre Dame is just, I think the gold helmets and the allure. But when you break it down, like Riley Leonard can't throw. So when they stop the run, he has to throw. Or when Navy's controlling the clock and they go up 14-0 on the first 2 possessions because they're literally perfect in the red zone. So they get there because you know that the play action when Georgia Tech was running, you know, that wing T offense, all that, it was effective when they had
Calvin Johnson still shooting threes.
But it was Calvin Johnson. But with Navy, when they do it, is like they run the ball so well, they do the play action so well, they run so much motion off of that their wide receiver can't. It's track speed.
All right. So last
all
question.
You have to do is get open. And if he catches it in the open, you're not catching him from behind.
Yeah, Notre Dame's best corner is out for the season. But last question. Can Notre Dame lose to one of Army or Navy and still make the playoff?
I would say no, because the SEC is probably the biggest piece, because I think some of those teams are going to kind of cancel each other out, but they're going to move each other up. So, without seeing like everything like out and like being able to like push buttons and specify an answer, I don't know if a 2-loss Notre Dame team this year really moves the needle. Because at no point did they look like a national title contender. Those years when they look like national title contenders and they lose a game like Ohio State, like last year when they lost a game to Ohio State, it was like, okay, but they looked good in their first few weeks.
But they have a feather. They have a feather in their pocket.
The loss to Northern Illinois makes them not look like they look like an average team. They look like an SMU with that loss.
But going back to what I asked you about Vanderbilt, what's more important, the Bama win or the Georgia State loss? What's more important, the loss to Northern Illinois or that win at Texas A&M? Especially if Texas A&M beats LSU on that same field this weekend. Especially if Texas A&M makes it to the SEC championship game.
Notre Dame look like they are a championship.
No, not at all. But a lot of these teams don't. A lot of these teams, Iowa State doesn't, even though they're undefeated.
A 2-loss Bama team under Nick Saban that lost on last-second field goals, even though they had those 2 losses, they look like a team that could compete for the national championship. So then with 2 losses, Nick Saban's trying to make the argument that, hey, we lost on the last-second field goals. And I get it, but, it's still 2 losses. But there was an argument to be made there because they look like a team that competes for the championship. Notre Dame does not look like a team that is championship pedigree. They look like a good team. They look like SMU. They look like Illinois. They look like a regular team that's having a very, very good 7 weeks. So 2 losses for them, especially if this loss happens to Navy, I think people will still try to hype Navy up, but it's going to be like, all right, calm down. You had them at 24 when they were 6-0. So don't act like, because they just beat Notre Dame, transitive properties. Like now they're just way better than we.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like that's what's gonna be the conversation.
Yeah, because what happens? What happens at the end of the year, right?
And if you're a team that needs that conversation, if you need someone to hype up the team that beat you in order to get you, then you're not a championship team.
Mm-hmm. All right. We'll see what happens at the end of the year. Boise State, like I said, at UNLV this week, we'll see. What if one of those service academies finish undefeated? Do they get in over Boise? All this kind of.
And the thing with Army Navy is something that we should keep track of. They could potentially play for their conference championship
before
they play for like the
Army Navy game
the following week. So it's gonna be, there could be a situation where Navy wins its conference, they're undefeated, and they come back and Army beats them, and now they're 12-1.
But luckily, in that scenario, the playoff selection happens before the Army Navy game. So if one of them got selected, then it doesn't matter.
But then it's going to be, now Army comes back and beats a conference champion. It's like, we're 12-1.
Too late.
So yeah,
you should have won the first game. You should have won the first game.
That's why you're not going to be able to have a 10-2 Notre Dame and because it's gonna be better. It's gonna be better wins. It's gonna be better stories. Mm-hmm. And this Notre Dame team, they don't have the They don't have the coach you're rooting for. They don't have the quarterback you're rooting for. They don't have like a defensive play like that Manti Te'o.
Hey, but you're Mr.
They don't have like the allure of the.
I know, but you're Mr. They're trying to fill these NFL stadiums, right?
Yeah, true indeed. But I don't. And I don't know why people are such Notre Dame fans, but they are.
Because they're the Catholic University.
Listen,
Just like BYU, just like Liberty, you know what I'm saying? Just like Baylor, they got the religious zealots on lock.
2-loss BYU and a 2-loss Liberty, we're not even having this conversation.
Yeah.
Especially with 1 loss in Northern Illinois.
Well, you gotta remember, like there would be no college football without Notre Dame. On that note,
college football without Theodore Roosevelt.
We will be back on Friday with picks. He is Mr. Logical. Do not bring feelings to a fact fight.
Don't do it.
And I do not, I repeat, I do not hate Julius Randle. We'll see you in a few days. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things. Do all the good things. We love you. And we out.